What is up, you guys? It is Nundark. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your families, friends. I'm starting to get into the festive spirit here with my lit up cat tree. Hopefully that is not too distracting. It would be perfect if all of these cats were different variations of Pikachu. That would be, that would be perfect. But I digress. I got this for 40% off at Target for literally like $18. So can't really complain. Think it's neat. Hopefully it's not too distracting. All right, as of recording this video, we know what PSA has offered us for our 2 slabs that just came back. Okay? We're going to go over that, but we know what PSA had offered us for these 2 slabs that you see on the screen. The Gem Mint 10 Charizard V from Brilliant Stars and the PSA 9 Gengar Vmax from Fusion Strike. We did not accept their offer. So we're going to go into their offers, the pros and cons of not accepting their offer, what that means for us from a monetary value. And by the end of this video, right, you're going to know what we profited off these cards. You're going to see the transaction when we sell these later today at a card show. As of right now, all I know is what I've been offered for these cards. By the end of this video, you will know what we made from these cards. I think it's going to be pretty cool. So obviously I'm going to have to go to the show and do a clip and come back and wrap it up. But yeah, this is going to be fun. If you are not subscribed, I welcome you greatly into this community, the community that we're starting, that you guys have really helped grow to where it's at today. I want to just keep doing this and keep thanking you guys and keep making this a positive, welcoming, kind of passionate Pokemon space where we can just focus on some of the things that are good in the hobby. We'll talk about some of the theories and negatives around the PSA offer system today, but I don't want that to cloud the fact that there's so much more good than bad in Pokemon, and it's easy to get caught up in like the scalping and the flipping and the theft in the hobby or the negativity. But at the end of the day, this is a kids game that a lot of kids and adults are enjoying right now and should. And collecting Pokemon cards is fun at its purest form. Even collecting like sealed product and things like that, it's just fun to display and show, and yeah, it's an awesome space. So welcome back. If you are a subscriber, if you're not a subscriber, I ask and invite you to subscribe if you can, and if you want to be a part of this community. I'm gonna shut my door right now because the furnace just turned on. Okay, so these 2 slabs, we're gonna go over some numbers here. At the time of purchase for the Gengar Vmax, and again, this was part of my wife's collection buy where she bought someone's collection. So my wife bought this card for 73.5% of market at the time, which was the agreed upon percentage, and 73.5% of $712 was $523. So we spent $523 acquiring this raw card. Okay? For this Charizard V, still at 73.5%, at the time it was $252, meaning we spent $185. Total paid for these 2 cards was $708. Okay? So taking our risk on having to get them graded, having to pay to get them graded, we offered the seller $708, and that is what we paid for these 2 cards raw. Then we graded them. We graded them with regular grading at $59.99 a card, so $60 to get them in, I believe, 20 business day turnaround. It ended up taking a little bit longer than that, but not too much longer. I think it was a month and a half calendar days to get these cards back. But when you spend $120 on grading, plus $20 insured shipping there, $20 insured shipping back, you're at $160 to PSA. So adding $160 to the $708 that we paid for these 2 cards, our all-in cost for what I'm holding on the screen right now was $868. Okay, that's important because that's what we've spent. The rest now is profit when we sell these. Now I'll get into the PSA offers we received. On the screen right now, you are going to see the offers that were made to us. It was $568 for the Gengar and $600 for the Charizard. $568 for the Gengar was 70% of, at that time, $810 market. So our Gengar went up from, like, what did I say market was when we bought this? When we bought this, the ungraded Gengar was $712. The Gengar in a PSA 9, as of recording, is $810. That's about a $100 come up, without figuring in the cost of grading, etc. Now, I will say, I don't know where PSA or whoever's making the offer, GameStop, a Vault, somewhere of any company, I don't know what market data they're pulling to establish a market value. So when I say things like, when they offered us $568 for this card, that's 70% of market. That's 70% of what I, when receiving the offer, looked up the value of the card to be. So it's probably pretty close, but yeah, it's just, they don't tell you what they're valuing your card at. They're telling you what they're offering for your card. So, okay, they offered us 70% of market for our PSA 9. Okay, what's interesting here is they offered us $600 for our PSA 10 Charizard V, which actually, this slab is worth less than this slab. Yes, this is a Gem Mint 10 alt art, and this is a 9, but this is a more desirable, popular, sought-after alt art. This still carries a higher price tag in a 9 than this does in a 10. This would be like almost $2,000 if this was a 10. The offer they made us on this card was $600, which is 90% of the new market value of $665. This Charizard went from 252 raw at the time of purchase to $665 in a Gem Mint 10. That's like a come up of $400. And they offered us 90%. So here's my theory. Here's my, what's curious about this. Clearly they need, well, two things. Clearly they need Gem Mint 10s. Whoever's buying these, if it's GameStop for their pack rip or slab grab lottery kind of app where you're able to literally like deposit money and like roll a dice, and basically it's like a loot bin of slabs, PSA slabs, I believe it is a partnership with only PSA. They clearly need Gem Mint 10s more than they need 9s, because they're offering you 90%, which is really hard to turn down, for your Gem Mint 10s and 70 for your Gem Mint 9s. My other theory, which gets into a little bit of the conspiracy, and hopefully is never comes out to be true. My theory, and here's why this is my theory. This card is very off-centered. Very off-centered. It is left heavy, at least 60-40. You can see it here how this border is much fatter than that border, and it is bottom heavy. There is a small border up at the top and a fat border at the bottom, to the effects of like 70-30. Now I've had worse cards, and I'll actually go grab that right now. My Pikachu Vmax was a PSA 8. I cracked it and resubmitted it, hoping it could get a 9 because it's very off-centered, but it's clean. It came back a PSA 10. Look at how off-centered this is. This is a literal sliver of border, and this is fat, and then this is way thicker than that. The card is literally shifted entirely to one side, and this Gem Mint 10. This is something I'm going to keep, so I don't think any buyer's going to, even have the opportunity to complain about it. And if I ever do sell it, I'll be, pretty transparent. But that is not a 10. It received a 10. When we submitted these two cards, we were thinking both of them are very, very clean on the back. However, the Charizard has a couple specs on the back. We'll get into that. And it's off-centered. This was the one we were hoping to 9, just to slab it, authenticate it, no longer have a disputable value. We were just going to submit this to get a 9. Hopefully also the grader would say, wow, this is super clean, but it's not perfect. Let's give it a 9. This one, super clean and perfect. Let's give it a 10. This is the card we submitted to get a 10. It is literally perfectly centered, very clean, and no whitening on the corners. This card was built to be a 10. This card, very off-centered. And there are small imperfections on the corner. And again, this is a super clean card, so these might even be hard to see. But I digress. My theory here is, grading is very subjective, and it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to perfectly match your pre-grading. That needs to be said. But this is not a how to grade or a grading video. But like, we thought this would 9, we thought this would 10. Flip it. That's what happened. But my theory is, because this is the cheaper card, they 9'd this and gave us an offer. So they're thinking we're going to get disappointed that this hit a 9. We thought it was going to 10. Oh, it is what it is. They gave us a cash out offer. Let's accept this cash offer and give this back to PSA. There is a scenario here where they lowballed us on this card, knowing it could pass as a 10. If it was in a 10 slab, nobody would question it. They could crack this after accepting our cash offer. It's now we accept their cash offer. It's now their card. They crack this, resubmit it. It gets a 10. This is now valued at $1,800, and it's PSA's or whoever, GameStop, whoever made the purchase, and they just saved $1,000 plus. That is a legitimate theory and something that could for sure happen. I hope it is not. And then maybe just to make us feel good about our submission, right? They're like, well, we'll throw a Gem Mint 10 on this one. He can keep his Charizard. That would be the theory of just what they're trying to do with this Gengar, and a negative conspiracy. A more realistic one is they just need, let's say there was no association between what PSA was trying to do, right? And there would have to be for that old theory to be true. But let's say there was no association with PSA grading and then the offers GameStop's making. Then PSA grades these poorly. This one should not have 10'd. This one should have. That's not how they graded. And now GameStop just doesn't know any of that, doesn't really see the cards too clearly, or they do, and they do see images front and back. You get images of your card. So they see images, but all they really focus on is that this is a 10. And then my original theory of GameStop clearly needs Gem Mint 10s from you more than Mint 9s is why they offered us 90% for this slab. That's a more realistic theory, is they saw that this 10, they looked at it, they looked at the pictures, they didn't look too far into it. They basically want your 10s, and they're going to offer you high for them. Okay. All right. So that was a lot, but now we'll get into some of the fun math of what we're going to do about this. All right, so now let's look at the numbers. Had we accepted, boom, boom, both PSA offers, yes, yes, immediate cash deposit, it would have been $1,168. 90% for this Charizard at $600, and then 70% for this Gengar at $568. Combining those two offers, we would have made $1,168. Being all in on these cards at $868, that is exactly $300 in profit had we accepted the offers. No work, no effort, just $300 in profit. Boom, done. We didn't do that because we wanted to have that moment of getting our cards that we've waited over a month for, opening them, seeing their grades together for the first time, and having kind of that surprise, that Christmas morning feel. So we chose that route. Now we're probably not going to get 90% for this card, right? We're probably taking a small L on the 90% offer is extremely competitive. I'm going to try because it is a PSA 10 alt art, but more likely than not, I'm going to probably get around 85% for this card. So we took an L there, in theory, but because we're selling this one also for 85%, we're going to take a bigger gain from the 75% offer PSA or 70% offer PSA gave us. If I sell both these cards successfully for 85% of their current market value, that would be a total payout of $385 profit. $85 more than bulk accepting PSA's offers. So it was smart for me to not accept their offers. And again, this is all just hindsight. I didn't do this thinking about this. But in hindsight, it was smart of me to not accept their offers, which would have made us $300 in profit, and I go sell these for 85%, and I would make $385 in profit. Now, had I accepted the 90% offer, and not accepted the 70, but made 85 myself off this one, it would probably have made us $30 more. That is our max gain return scenario, and that would have made us $30 more. So I should have, in hindsight, accepted this offer, but I do put a value on the experience my wife and I had opening these at easily $30. So we both talked, we both agreed with the decision and still do. So now it's all about going to a show and selling these and trying to get $1,253. That is 85% of their current market price, $1,253. These have gone down a tiny bit, even in the past 2 days, really, from us discussing what to do with these. So $1,253 was my goal. That would be the $85 increase in profit. There is a scenario where I get $1,200 for these two cards. That would mean that we made $32 more than if we just blindly accepted, or not blindly, but just accepted PSA's offers. Still $32 more. And we got to open them ourselves and have that moment. So I don't know, my unless you get all to see, if opening the cards and having kind of that surprise factor isn't important to you, there is advantage to looking at PSA's offers. Had they given us 90% for both of these, and maybe they just really needed a Gengar Vmax GameStop for their slab lottery app, and they gave us 90 for both of these, boy, like, if these cards don't mean anything to you and you're just going to try and resell them and you were grading them for value only, kind of like we were, you'll want to take that offer. And we would have missed the boat on that. So it is advantageous to look at your PSA offers. I hope they're not doing anything shady. I hope it is just GameStop offering what they can on certain cards. And had they offered us 90% on both cards, we should have taken that. We chose not to look. Now in hindsight, we have an opportunity, because they only offered us 70 on this. We do have an opportunity to make more by making the decision we made. So now I'm going to go to a card show and I'm going to try and sell these two cards. And if and when I do, you're going to see a clip from the show going over how much we made from them, who the buyer was, if they want to be shouted out, etc. And then I'll do a closeout recap video here of just exactly what our profit ended up being, hopefully with the cash in hand. So this is just a overview of what PSA offered us for these two cards. I find it just incredibly interesting. That's why it's so fun to talk about. But then also just the story of these two cards and the profit we made off them, just to keep you guys informed on, everything I'm trying to do. So we'll see you shortly. I'm gonna go teleport and make some deals. Peace. All right, we sold our Gem Mint Charizard V for $100. Absolute steal for the homie. Just kidding, he Venmo'd me $452. So we got $550, which is right around 85%. Market was $655, call it. And yeah, Charizard V is going to a new PC home for $550. All right, guys, we did move the Gengar VMAX PSA 9. We comped it at a $750 market. And we are mixing in a lot of fun things. It's part trade, part cash, $500 in cash. And then it was Jeff and Jonah. Jonah actually is a part of the trade too via these two cards, Delta Species Meowth and Eevee, which add up to $10 of the trade. Then we have the Wailord, we have the non-hollow Dark Omastar from Neo Revelation, and then we have some Crystal Guardians and Dragon Frontiers stamped Delta Species Reverse Hollows. We have a Swirl, Neo Discovery, Wobbuffet, and there's a swirl kind of behind Alakazam's groin pelvis area there behind his body. Base set to Alakazam. All those cards in trade. I'm good. Tracking it. Plus 500 cash for the Gengar VMAX PSA 9. Great deal. All right, guys, so you just saw the videos of us selling the Charizard V and selling the Gengar VMAX. Again, PSA's total offers were $1,168. We ended up selling our two cards for around $1,150 in value. It was $50 short of our $1,200 goal, and some of that was trade credit. I was surprised that the Charizard V had tons of interest, was a quick mover. And that's just the nature of it being a PSA 10. One guy actually bought it, a vendor bought it for his personal collection, so he did give us 85%. We agreed to a market value of like $660, and he paid us $550 in cash / Venmo. So that was really good. That was definitely a win because I believe our PSA offer was $600, and we obviously didn't take that, which was 90%. We ended up still making $550. So not too much of an L there, and it was, again, a very quick mover. The Gengar, on the other hand, was hard to move. A lot of people said they're going to price it at ungraded because they're going to crack it. PSA 9s and alt arts are just bricks that they can't move. I heard that a lot. So they all said they want it valued at ungraded. I said I'm immediately now just taking a $90 market L on the value of a 9 versus ungraded, and not factoring in the cost that we spent like $80 a card grading these with a quick turnaround. So I'd be all in like an $170 loss accepting that offer. And I got that offer multiple times. If you comp it or establish a market of ungraded, we'll buy it from you at 85%. I wasn't going to do that. So I held firm on that. I did budge and go down to 80% of, eventually I budged. And after hearing no so many times, even from like Gengar collectors and one vendor that was fully branded as like Gengar collectibles, basically they just didn't want the 9. I was trying to make the pitch that a lot of people can't afford the 10 in a Gengar, so a 9 might be a great option to have a slab of a card that people really want. And it just wasn't sticking. So eventually I agreed to a market value of $750, slightly down from the current market of a PSA 9, but not much, and then agreed to 80% of $750, which I believe got us in the ballpark of $600 in cash out value, and he was even hesitant to do that. He said, I'll do the deal if you work in some trade and I'll give you some extra, which is why in the video and the photo you're seeing on the screen, I essentially sold the Gengar for about $630 in total value, with $500 of it being cash and $130 of it being the card shown on the screens. I like that because I essentially used the profit I made in this whole deal, right? My wife and I kind of split this whole thing. And so I was able to pay her for the grading expenses that she incurred, but also get the cards on the screen as my quote unquote profit. And those are cards I needed. Cards I needed for my master set, my vintage hollow binder, some sweet Delta Species cards, the Meowth, the Eevee in like steel Delta Species. That's super cool. And then yeah, the base set too, Alakazam, the Wobbuffet, just really cool haul. And to go home, it's really hard for me to just go to a show and strictly sell stuff and come home with nothing. Cash is great, don't get me wrong, that is an absolute rush. Sometimes even more of a rush than like acquiring cards and feeling empty pockets. But when you sell 2 big cards and kind of come home with no little treat for yourself, at the end of the day, I'm a collector. Not in this just for profits. So to come home with cards that I could put in my binder and feel good about, essentially I left my house with those 2 slabs and came home with like 10 new cards for my binder. Obviously they hold different monetary values, but as a pure collector, that's kind of like a win for me. And then there was a ton of cash on top. So that's how it all shook out. We ended up with around $1150 in total value received for those 2 slabs, which at our cost of $868 all in after grading, that was about $282 in profit with this investment of acquiring these 2 raw cards, getting them graded with a 15 or I believe 20-day turnaround, and then not accepting PSA's offers, and then selling them at a show. We made $282 profit all in. So that's the skinny. Just wanted to, again, share with you guys what I'm doing and give you all the information so that you can do with it what you will, but at least get some insight into learning from some of these stories and experiences. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had fun. Subscribe if you're not. I really appreciate it. Join us on this kind of collecting Pokemon talking space journey. And most importantly, especially over the holiday seasons, tell someone you love them, be a good person. Yeah, you never know when when it's going to be your last time with someone. So I know the holidays bring mixed emotions to many of us, but just let's all do our best to tell the people in our lives that we love them. Keep positivity in this space, especially, and just be a good person. We'll catch you in the next video. Nundark out. Peace.